I had been married to Allison for 7 years, fighting my way up through the MMA ranks while she supposedly supported my dream. Our life in Denver seemed picture perfect, with her corporate job paying the bills while I trained for my shot at the championship title. Everything was lining up perfectly until I glimpsed a text notification on her phone one evening. The name that flashed across the screen made my blood freeze. Jackson Turner, the very man I was scheduled to fight in 3 weeks for the biggest opportunity of my career. My stomach dropped as realization dawned. Before I tell you how I discovered my wife's betrayal with my next opponent, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories about fighting for your self-respect both in and out of the ring. Allison and I met during our final year of college in Illinois. I was a promising amateur fighter working nights as a bouncer at the local bar, and she was a business major with big dreams. We connected instantly, bonding over our shared ambition and drive. After graduation, we moved in together, and 2 years later I asked her to marry me in the middle of the gym where I trained. She said yes, without hesitation, telling me she believed in my potential more than anyone else. The early years of our marriage were tough but satisfying. I took odd jobs to supplement my meager earnings from local fights while Allison began climbing the corporate ladder. We lived in a tiny apartment, saving every penny for my training expenses. When she got offered a promotion that required relocating to Denver, we saw it as a sign. The mile-high city had better training facilities and more opportunities for me to advance my career. For 3 years in Denver, things seemed to be working. I joined an elite training camp, started winning bigger fights, and finally caught the attention of major promoters. Allison worked 60-hour weeks at her marketing firm, often coming home exhausted but proud of the life we were building together. We talked about having kids once my career stabilized, buying a house in the suburbs, the whole American dream package. I thought we were solid. The first signs that something was wrong started about 4 months ago. Allison began working later, claiming big projects and client dinners. She changed her passwords on her devices, started dressing differently, and was constantly texting with a smile I had not seen directed at me in months. I noticed the changes but was so focused on my upcoming title shot that I pushed my concerns aside. After all, we had been together for 8 years. Surely we were past the point of secrets. The day everything fell apart started normally enough. I returned from morning training, muscles aching from the intense session my coach had put me through. Allison was in the shower getting ready for work, and her phone kept lighting up with notifications on the kitchen counter. I had never been the jealous type who checked her messages, but something felt off. When the same name kept appearing, Jackson Turner, my curiosity overpowered my principles. My hands trembled as I opened her message thread with the man I had been studying on video for weeks, preparing to face him in the octagon. The messages were unmistakable, intimate conversations, plans to meet, references to their previous encounters. I scrolled back, feeling each message like a physical blow. They had been seeing each other for months. 7 months to be exact. I kept reading, unable to stop myself from absorbing every devastating detail. When I heard the shower turn off, I quickly put the phone down and pretended to make breakfast. My mind was racing, but I forced myself to appear normal. "You heading to the office?" I asked casually as she entered the kitchen. "Yeah, busy day. Might be late again," she replied, not meeting my eyes. "The Johnson account is a mess." There was no Johnson account. I knew all her major clients from our dinner conversations. Another lie. "No problem. I have evening training anyway," I said, swallowing the bile rising in my throat. After she left, I did something I never thought I would do. I logged into her email using a password she did not know I remembered. There I found hotel receipts, explicit photos, and even video messages between them. The final piece of evidence was a video message from Jackson to her, cockily referencing how he was going to beat her husband in more ways than one. The physical reaction was immediate and overwhelming. I barely made it to the bathroom before emptying my stomach, followed by dry heaving that felt like it would never stop. My vision blurred with tears of rage and heartbreak. The woman I had built my life around, the one person I trusted completely, had betrayed me with the man I was preparing to fight professionally. The personal and professional humiliation merged into a pain so intense I could barely breathe. That evening, when Allison returned home, I watched her carefully. She kissed me on the cheek like normal, asked about my day, and proceeded to tell elaborate lies about client meetings that never happened. I nodded and smiled, playing along while dying inside. I decided not to confront her yet. I needed time to think, to plan my next move. Plus, I had a title fight to prepare for, and I could not let this destroy everything I had worked for. The weeks following my discovery were the darkest of my life. Sleep became almost impossible. I would lie awake, watching Allison peacefully slumbering beside me, wondering how she could betray me so completely and still sleep without apparent guilt. During training sessions, my coach noticed my distraction and declining performance. "Your head is not in the game, Ned," he would say, frustration evident in his voice. "Whatever is going on, you need to sort it out or kiss this title shot goodbye." But how could I explain that my opponent had been sleeping with my wife? The humiliation was too much to bear publicly. So I lied, claiming minor health issues and promising to improve. Alone in the gym, after hours, I would sometimes break down memories of Allison and me flooding my mind. Our wedding day vacations together, quiet evenings, planning our future, all now tainted by her betrayal. The psychological torture intensified when I hired a private investigator to document the affair. I needed evidence for the divorce I was already contemplating. The PI delivered results faster than expected, presenting me with photos of Allison entering high-end hotels near my training center, always within an hour of Jackson leaving the same establishments. The investigation also revealed something that cut even deeper. Jackson had purposely pursued Allison after learning she was my wife, clearly seeing it as psychological warfare before our fight. From what my sources in the MMA community tell me, the investigator explained, "Turner has been bragging about this to people in the industry. He specifically targeted your wife as a way to get in your head before the fight." The realization that people in my professional circle might know about the affair before me was another layer of humiliation. How many sympathetic looks had I missed? How many conversations had stopped when I entered rooms? The thought made me physically ill. The betrayal cut even deeper when I discovered they had been together on our anniversary, the very night Allison had claimed to be working late and had only celebrated with me the following weekend. I found pictures on her cloud account of them together, in a restaurant where I had once proposed a renewal of our vows. She was wearing the bracelet I had given her that morning. But the financial betrayal was what pushed me closest to my breaking point. Checking our joint accounts one evening, I discovered that $12,000 money we had been saving for a down payment on a house had been systematically withdrawn over the past few months. Further investigation through credit card statements showed expensive gifts purchased for Jackson designer watches, custom suits, even weekend getaways disguised as business trips. One evening, after finding hotel receipts from a luxury resort in Aspen where they had apparently spent a weekend while I was at a fight camp, I confronted Allison about the money without revealing what I knew about the affair. "I noticed some large withdrawals from our joint account," I said casually during dinner. "Anything I should know about?" Her response was immediate and practiced. "Oh, I have been moving some money into a higher yield investment account. Wanted to surprise you with how much extra we could earn. The paperwork is at the office. I will bring it home tomorrow." Another lie. The casual way she could look me in the eyes and deceive me made me question every moment of our 8 years together. Had anything been real? The next day, no paperwork appeared, just more excuses. As the fight date approached, I obtained access to Allison's cloud storage and found something that nearly broke me: detailed conversations where she shared intimate secrets about our marriage with Jackson. She had told him about my insecurities, my family issues, even details about our sex life. They had discussed their plans for after what Jackson called my inevitable defeat, how she would console me publicly while privately celebrating with him, how they would gradually make their relationship known in the months following. This discovery led to my rock-bottom moment. During a solo midnight training session with nobody around to witness, I completely fell apart. I could not complete even basic drills, my technique dissolving into wild, unfocused movements. I smashed my fists against the heavy bag until my knuckles bled through the wraps, screaming until my voice gave out. For the first time, I seriously contemplated quitting the fight, possibly leaving MMA altogether. What was the point of fighting for a future that had already been destroyed? That night, I bought a bottle of whiskey, breaking every rule of my training regimen, and drank myself into oblivion in our guest bedroom, unable to bear sleeping next. To Allison. In my drunken haze, I found myself on the balcony of our 15th floor apartment, looking down at the Denver skyline momentarily, considering how easy it would be to make the pain stop permanently. Instead, I picked up my phone and called the last person I expected to turn to: my father. We had been estranged for years due to his criticism of my fighting career, but in that moment I needed parental wisdom more than pride. It was 3 in the morning, but he answered on the second ring. "Dad, I said, my voice breaking. Everything is falling apart. My father listened without interruption as I poured out the whole story. When I finished, the silence stretched for what felt like minutes before he finally spoke. Son, this is not about her or him. This is about you now. A man is defined not by what happens to him, but by how he responds when life kicks him in the teeth. His words, tough but compassionate, penetrated my alcohol haze. You have two choices, he continued. Let this destroy you or use it as fuel. But remember, the best revenge is not just winning, it is thriving afterward. That conversation marked the beginning of my transformation. The next morning, despite a crushing hangover, I reached out to my entire estranged family, my father, mother, and two brothers, people I had drifted from while building my life with Allison. Their immediate support overwhelmed me. My younger brother even offered to fly to Denver the next day. I decided to channel every ounce of pain into my training, but I needed space away from my regular gym where rumors might be circulating. Through my father's connections, I was introduced to Marcus Reynolds, a former champion who had retired to train select fighters. After hearing a version of my situation, I told him my marriage was ending but spared the humiliating details. He agreed to work with me for the 3 weeks before the fight. Your technique is solid, Marcus observed during our first session. But your mental game needs complete reconstruction. Cage fighting is 90% psychological, especially at championship level. Under his guidance, I developed a strategic plan. First, I would keep my knowledge secret from both Allison and the public. The element of surprise would be crucial, both personally and professionally. Second, I consulted with an attorney to quietly prepare divorce papers, gathering all the evidence the private investigator had collected. Third, I began an intensive training regimen focused specifically on countering Jackson Turner's fighting style. Marcus taught me mental techniques I had never considered. Emotional control is not about feeling nothing, he explained. It is about channeling everything you feel into focused power. Your anger, your pain, these can be weapons when properly directed. Every morning began with intense physical conditioning, followed by technical training, and ending with psychological preparation. I studied every Jackson Turner fight ever recorded, identifying patterns in his movements, preferences in his attacks, and weaknesses in his defense. I noticed his tendency to drop his right hand after throwing combination punches. I cataloged how he telegraphed his takedown attempts with a slight shift in weight distribution. The physical transformation was remarkable. I dropped to my optimal fighting weight with unprecedented efficiency. My endurance improved dramatically. My striking power measured on the gym equipment showed a 30% increase. But the mental changes were even more profound. Through meditation and visualization techniques, I learned to compartmentalize my emotional turmoil. I replaced self-doubt with cold determination. The betrayal became fuel rather than distraction. Most importantly, I began to rediscover my sense of self-worth, independent of my marriage, something that had become dangerously entangled over our years together. At home, I maintained a facade of normalcy while making practical preparations for the aftermath. I transferred my personal assets to a new account Allison could not access. I secured a lease on an apartment to move into after the fight. I arranged for my reconciled family to attend the match, their tickets purchased without Allison's knowledge. The night before we were scheduled to fly to Las Vegas for the fight, I sat alone in our guest room reviewing the final evidence package from the investigator. There were dozens of photographs, hundreds of text messages, and financial records, documenting every aspect of the betrayal. The pain was still there, but now it felt distant, controlled, channeled. I made a decision that brought unexpected peace. Regardless of the fight's outcome, my marriage was over. I had already won the more important battle, reclaiming myself. As I packed my bags for Vegas, Allison appeared in the doorway watching me, with what I now recognized as calculated concern. Nervous about tomorrow, she asked, playing the role of supportive wife. Not at all, I replied truthfully. For the first time in months, I know exactly what I am doing. Fight day arrived with crystal clarity. The MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas hummed with anticipation as fans filed in for the championship card. During the preliminary preparations, I caught glimpses of Allison in the family section, nervously checking her phone. From my position in the warm-up area, I could see her screen light up repeatedly with messages from Jay. Even now, she was communicating with him, probably wishing him luck against her own husband. The weigh-in had been tense the day before. When Jackson and I faced off for the traditional stare-down, I saw something in his eyes I had not anticipated. Fear mixed with confusion. He had expected to see a broken man psychologically defeated before the fight began. Instead, he encountered unwavering focus and controlled aggression. His trademark smirk faltered momentarily, revealing the first crack in his confidence. As my team made final preparations in the locker room, an unexpected peace settled over me. My coach noticed it too, commenting that he had never seen me so centered before a major fight. Little did he know that the approaching battle in the octagon was only part of the war I was fighting and winning. Walking out to the arena under the bright lights, hearing the roar of the crowd, I felt strangely detached from the spectacle. My focus narrowed to a singular point, the man waiting for me in the cage, the one who thought he could take everything from me, the one who was about to learn a painful lesson. The first round started with Jackson immediately pressing forward, aggressive and confident. He landed several hard strikes that would have rattled me in the past. I absorbed the impacts, measuring his timing, and waiting for my opportunity. His traditional strategy of overwhelming opponents early was playing out exactly as Marcus and I had anticipated. "He is trying to end this quickly," Marcus said in my corner after the first round. "He knows you are stronger than he expected. Stay patient. Your moment will come." The second round saw me taking more initiative, testing Jackson's defenses with calculated combinations. I could see frustration building in his expression as his usual dominance failed to materialize. Near the end of the round, he caught me with a spinning back kick that sent me reeling into the cage. The crowd gasped. Allison visibly flinched in her seat. Jackson pressed his advantage, unleashing a flurry of strikes, but I had been prepared for this moment. Instead of panicking, I clinched, recovered, and countered with an uppercut that stunned him just as the round ended. The message was clear: I was not going down easily. Between rounds, I glanced at Allison. She was biting her nails, looking more stressed than I had ever seen her. Our eyes met briefly before she looked away, guilt written across her features. For the first time, I felt nothing but pity for her. The third round began with renewed energy from both of us. Jackson, sensing his window closing, attempted his signature move, a feinted jab, followed by a right cross and shoot for a takedown. It was the exact sequence we had drilled countering for weeks. As he changed levels for the takedown, I sprawled perfectly, then transitioned into a position of dominance. The crowd roared as I began landing calculated strikes. In that moment, everything aligned: the physical training, the mental preparation, the emotional fuel. I unleashed months of controlled rage in a series of technically perfect combinations. Jackson's defense crumbled. The final blow, a perfectly timed right hook as he dropped his guard exactly as anticipated, connected with devastating impact. He collapsed unconscious as the referee jumped in to stop the fight. The arena erupted. I had done it, won the championship with a dramatic third-round knockout. As medical staff attended to Jackson, I leaned down near his ear as he regained consciousness. "She was never worth either of our time," I whispered just for him to hear. "But thanks for being the catalyst for my redemption." The confusion and then comprehension that washed over his face told me he understood completely. I had known all along, and I had still destroyed him in the cage. During the championship belt ceremony, the announcer held the microphone for my victory speech. Tradition dictated thanking family, coaches, and especially spouses who had sacrificed so much for this moment. The crowd expected me to acknowledge Allison, who was now standing and smiling for the cameras. "I want to thank my father for a conversation that saved more than just my fighting career," I said instead. "My coach Marcus for showing me that mental strength outweighs physical power, and myself for remembering my worth when others forgot it." The confusion on Allison's face was captured by the arena cameras and broadcast on the giant screens. She quickly composed herself, but the damage was done. Whispers spread through the nearby seats as people noticed the conspicuous absence of any mention of my wife. After the official proceedings, I headed to the locker room, mentally preparing for the final confrontation. As expected, Allison was waiting outside, her expression a practiced mix of pride and affection. "Baby, you were amazing," she gushed, moving to embrace me. "I knew you could do it. We should celebrate at that restaurant you love." "No," I interrupted quietly, stepping back from her attempted embrace. My team members looked confused, but I continued. "I know about you and Jackson Allison. I have known for weeks." Her face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" With calm precision, I laid out the evidence: dates, times, messages, photos in front of my teammates and several reporters who had gathered for post-fight interviews. Her denials died as I continued, replaced by horrified silence. "These are divorce papers," I said, handing her an envelope my brother had been holding for this moment. You have 24 hours to move your things out of the apartment. The locks will be changed tomorrow afternoon. Ned, please, she whispered, tears now streaming down her face. We can talk about this. It was a mistake. No, the mistake was mine for not seeing you clearly sooner, I replied. Congratulations, you are now free to be with a loser in more ways than one. With that, I walked away, the weight of months of deception lifting with each step. Behind me, I heard Allison collapse into sobs as my team and the gathered media pieced together what they had just witnessed. By morning, the story would overshadow even my championship victory. But for the first time since discovering the betrayal, I truly did not care what others thought. The aftermath played out much as I had expected. I returned to Denver the next day, having arranged for the locks to be changed, while Allison was still in Las Vegas trying to salvage her relationship with a now bitterly resentful Jackson. Her belongings were packed by a service and placed in storage, with access information sent to her email, along with contact details for my attorney. The first week was a whirlwind of contradictory emotions, triumph over my professional success, lingering pain from the betrayal, and surprising freedom in my new untethered state. Allison cycled through predictable stages of reaction to being caught and discarded. First came the flood of tearful messages and calls proclaiming her mistake and begging forgiveness. When those went unanswered, anger followed accusations that I had been negligent, too focused on fighting, emotionally unavailable. Finally came desperate bargaining, culminating in her showing up at my new apartment, literally on her knees in the hallway. Please, Ned. 7 years cannot end like this, she pleaded, mascara streaking down her face. I will do anything to fix this. I looked at her, this woman I had once believed was my forever person, and felt an unexpected emotion, gratitude. Her betrayal had forced me to rebuild myself stronger than before. There is nothing to fix, Allison, I said gently. What you broke cannot be repaired. But I am thankful for the clarity your actions brought me. With that, I closed the door on both her and that chapter of my life. The divorce proceeded without contest, her guilt and the overwhelming evidence making any legal battle futile. The financial assets were divided, with her returning the money she had diverted to their affair. Within 3 months, I was legally single again. The professional ascent that followed surprised even me. My championship win, combined with the dramatic personal story, created unprecedented media interest. While I refused to exploit the details of the betrayal, my new reputation as mentally tough and resilient attracted major sponsorship deals. I used the platform to speak about betrayal and resilience in general terms, finding that many people connected with the themes of rebuilding after personal devastation. With my newfound financial security, I established a training facility in my hometown in Illinois, reconnecting with my roots while creating opportunities for disadvantaged youth to learn discipline through martial arts. Working with young people from troubled backgrounds gave me purpose beyond competition and helped heal parts of myself I had not realized were wounded. The personal healing came more slowly but just as surely. I found a therapist specializing in betrayal trauma who helped me process what had happened in healthy ways. Sessions that initially focused on anger gradually shifted toward understanding and eventually release. I rebuilt relationships with my parents and siblings, allowing myself vulnerability with family in ways I had reserved only for Allison before. Friendships I had neglected during my marriage were renewed, and I discovered the joy of authentic connections based on mutual respect rather than dependence. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I tentatively began dating again, moving slowly and setting clear boundaries. The first time I felt genuine attraction to someone new was both terrifying and exhilarating proof that my capacity for connection had survived. The most significant moment in my recovery came unexpectedly a year after the championship fight. I was having dinner with my new girlfriend in downtown Denver when I spotted Allison and Jackson entering the restaurant together. They looked diminished somehow. His fighting career had stalled after our match, and her polished corporate appearance had faded. They noticed me immediately, and I could see Jackson tense, ready for confrontation. But as they approached our table, I realized something profound. I felt nothing. No anger, no jealousy, no pain, not even satisfaction at their obvious decline. Just peaceful indifference. They tried to provoke a reaction with passive-aggressive comments about moving on quickly, but I simply introduced my date, wished them well, and returned to our conversation. Walking away from them physically and emotionally with complete detachment was the moment I knew I was truly free. The most valuable lesson from this painful chapter was understanding that my worth was never tied to Allison's loyalty or anyone else's validation. The betrayal that could have destroyed me instead forced me to recognize my own strength and rebuild my life on a more solid foundation. The man who emerged from that crucible was not merely a champion fighter, but someone who had learned to fight for himself in all the ways that truly matter. Looking back now, I can actually find gratitude for the experience that transformed me. Not because I would ever wish such pain on anyone, but because I now know the difference between settling for a life that looks good from the outside and creating one that feels right from within. The peace that comes from that knowledge is worth every moment of pain it took to achieve it. True victory, I learned, is not defeating others in the ring or in relationships. It is about reclaiming yourself when pieces of you have been shattered. It is about standing alone and finding that you are enough. And sometimes the fights we do not choose end up being the ones that define us most powerfully. Have you ever had to rebuild yourself after someone betrayed your trust? Leave a comment below, sharing how you found your strength again. Your story might help someone else who is struggling right now. Do not forget to like this video if it resonated with you, and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming life's toughest challenges. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the end of what we thought we wanted becomes the beginning of what we truly needed all along.